it was an awesome race. I think that's just the number one thing. Kind of like what I said earlier, I think I could have ran that, and I did. But I mean, training has been going great over these past few months.
That was Cooper Lutkenhaus today on the Running Effect podcast. Back on the podcast, he actually was on the podcast this past summer after he won the Brooks PR Invitational in 2024. But 8 days ago, as of recording this, Cooper ran in the Millrose Games 800 meters, and he ran 146.86, which was an 800-meter national record. And the craziest part, ladies and gentlemen, he's only a sophomore. He's won national titles, state championships. He's a stud. He's so young. Love my conversations with Cooper, getting the chance to dive into his brain, his training, his mindset, all his plans for the future, his ambitions. I love how patient he is with his career and just has a very pure heart when it comes to the sport of running. He loves to compete. He loves to win. And I love that mindset. It's going to take him so far. If you guys enjoy this one, please hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss another episode. Most people discover their favorite podcast through the recommendation of a friend. So there are people out there. The Running Effect podcast is their favorite podcast. They just don't know it yet. Be that friend who introduces them and give us a 5-star review as a cherry on top if you really appreciate the podcast. Not entirely sure when this one will come out, as well as we might be sold out, but also check out in the show notes, we released merch for the first time ever, only made 200 pieces. So if it's gone, I'm sorry. We'll be coming out with more soon, but if it's not, snag it before it goes. It'll be quick. Appreciate you guys. Enjoy this conversation with Cooper. Let it inspire you. Keep chasing after those goals. And always appreciate you guys spending time with me and my guest. I hope it continues to provide you value. So without further ado, enjoy my conversation with the man, the myth, the legend, Cooper Lutkenhaus. Cooper Lutkenhaus, welcome back to the Running Effect podcast. A privilege to say those words. Mr. Champ, how you doing this morning?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Just to put things in perspective to kick off this conversation, a normal sophomore in high school, breaks 2, runs 159. If they do that, they're considered a prodigy at their high school. They're maybe throwing out state titles by the end of their high school career. If a sophomore in high school was to run 159 last Saturday with you, they would have been on the opposite track with over 100 meters to go by the time you would have finished. How are you so fast, Cooper? How are you so fast? Even the people who would be considered prodigies would have more than 100 meters left in their race. What's going on?
I think a lot of it is just the training aspect. Training has grown so much in this past, ever since the Paris Games, and then also just working with what I've been given. Great coaches and great family. They're a big reason I'm also where I'm at right now, running 146. So I give a lot of credit to them because they know what they're doing.
I remember we talked after Brooks PR last year, really fun conversation. People go back and listen to that one if you haven't already, get some more backstory on Cooper and all the ways he's led up to this point. But I remember that Brooks PR race was like a coming out party. Like, you did a lot of things in the state of Texas, and there were like murmurs of like, oh, he could be a stud. Brooks PR, you kind of come from behind, you kick with 100 meters to go. And I remember other kids there were kind of joking. They were like, we've never seen a kid have a kick in the 800. They were like, you're not supposed to have a kick. Like, it's a race where like you die off, right? And it's who dies the least. For you, you had a kick. Take me back to that race and that moment where, at least in my eyes, that really cemented what we're starting to see now. Like, that was the starting point of like a big high school career.
Well, I think Brooks last year was one of the more exciting races I had. Probably, it was definitely top 2 for sure, but because with the atmosphere and then also the fast time. But I think in a way that kind of started it all for where I am right now, and then just moving forward, try to build off that race.
I forget what exactly we talked about in that conversation, but I do remember in that conversation asking you about Michael Granville's 800-meter record, outdoor record at that time, and your kind of general perspective. And you were very much like, I'm going to be where my feet are in the present moment, get better day by day. But were you expecting this 146? And what have the past few months been like in terms of like dreaming and goal setting to this point?
I think I definitely could have ran it indoors because I ran earlier this past December, I ran 152 in a time trial. Because my freshman year, I ran 156, so 4 seconds faster. I knew I was definitely stronger. I just had to get in the right race to actually show it. So I knew I could probably run 146 in that race, but you just never know just how the race would play out. But that's kind of what you'd have to say for it.
I believe a few weeks prior, you ran 150.15 at the Texas Tech Invite, and you set a U.S. sophomore record there. But then, obviously, a few weeks later at Millrose, you cut like 4 seconds off of it. How much would you attribute fast times to just being in the right field and the right situation and scenario? And if that's the case, how are you brainstorming and thinking on the future of like, if I want records, I need to find those right races that I can put myself in because it's probably not going to come in a high school field.
I think it contributes a lot. You need fast. It's hard to run fast solo. It's definitely possible, but I think having the right set of guys is really how you run fast. Just kind of like Brooks last year, you had everybody in the field basically had a sub 150 PR, and then most of us ran sub 150. So I think having a fast field definitely will. I mean, it makes the race faster.
I forget if we talked about this in our first conversation with each other, but you have a family who's extremely talented. Your father, George, was the state runner up in 1995 in the 1600, and then your brother, Andrew, ran 150.04 in the 800. What are the conversations like at the dinner table? Are you guys talking about running or no? Not so much.
It's not as much at between me and my whole family. We definitely do like to talk about it, me, Drew, and my dad, because that's what we like to do. So I think in a way it's more kind of outside, like talk with our coaches more. But then when we do come home with it, it's more just kind of just look what this guy ran. Look what how could we improve off this? It's nothing ever serious. I'd say we try to limit it, especially in the family aspect side of it.
So Millrose happened 8 days ago as of recording this. I think it's cool to get you 8 days after because you've had a little bit of time to reflect on it rather than like right after where things are a bit crazy. What are the overall reflections from that race where you ran 146.86?
It was an awesome race. I think that's just the number one thing. Just kind of like what I said earlier. I think I could have ran that, and I did, but just I mean, training has been going great over these past few months.
Would you say training has changed much year over year from freshman year to sophomore year? And if so, what are some things you've done differently?
I wouldn't say too much has changed. We definitely started faster workouts a little earlier because of Millrose, where my freshman year we weren't running as fast this early on. But now after Millrose, we in a way kind of backed off, just relaxed a little more since at Texas. I mean, our state meets in May, but those later races like Brooks, Nike are all in the summer, so it's still a long ways away. So just trying to maintain fitness and then do those harder workouts later in the year.
How much does this time and performance open up your horizon and expectation in terms of races outside the high school circuit? Because correct me if I'm wrong, and not to discredit other high school boys, I know everyone's running at a very high level now, but if you keep running 146, I'm not sure how much competition you'll have, Cooper. So have you thought about pro races, like hopping in collegiate invitationals if like unattached? Like what's your perspective as you think to maybe more so the outdoor season of what you're looking to race and do?
Definitely not this year, at least for right now. As being in Texas, especially our school moved from 5A to 6A, which is the highest classification you can be in. So winning a state title in Texas is probably the biggest thing you can do. So that will always be the number one goal for me. But I think maybe running a few college races later in the year, like junior or senior year, but none this year at the moment.
Let's go back to the fall. I remember in our first conversation with each other, we briefly discussed cross country. Take me through the state meet. You placed 47th. You ran a time of 16:23 in the 5K. How proud of you were you of that performance, and how much do you feel like your ability to dabble in cross country gave you the strength that you needed for a performance like 146?
Yeah, with that time from last year in cross country at the state meet, it was definitely exciting. Just one being able to be there, but I also think that cross country can help that strength side. I'm definitely not a huge fan of cross country, but the team aspect of it, I think I really enjoy getting to run with the guys, all running fast. But definitely not a major fan of it. We had a really good year this year as a team, so hopefully being able to grow off that for next year during cross season will be fun.
When it comes to 800-meter specific training, do you and your coach approach it from more the strength perspective or speed perspective? And what does a general training week look like for you?
It's, I would say, more speed based. We definitely still add a lot of strength in there because we do roughly always two workouts a week unless it's a off week. But one week or one workout will be super strength based, and then the other one will have a lot of speed. Like most workouts end with, even if it's just strength side, like 5 by 80 meters, just all out with enough rest in between to fully recover. But we definitely focus on the speed side a lot more. 800 pace stuff, shorter rest, but 800 pace stuff, and just try base almost all out on a lot of reps.
Was there a workout leading into Millrose you did a key session that gave you the confidence you could run 146?
Yes, we did. It was 2 by 300, 4 by 150. I said this somewhere else on another one, but it was 2 by 300, 90-second rest. It was like 144 pace. So, and it felt really, really smooth, really easy. And then the 90-second rest it was all I really needed. So I was definitely very confident coming after that. And then the 150s just all out. And then we did another one. I think we also ended on like with 2 200s at the end of that on one of those days, and did them in like 25, and they were just super easy. So hopefully be able to just keep doing that, and then just that helps with the confidence a lot.
You run 146. To you, was this like a crazy performance, or do you feel like that's like a 145, 144, and you just happen to have a good race on the day?
It was definitely a crazy, crazy performance. I think anytime you go sub 150, it's a crazy performance, but just super grateful for being able to run that fast.
What do you feel like your ceiling is this year, and what are you striving after, and how does a race like this reshape what you think is possible?
I don't really know what I would consider my ceiling, but just running as fast as possible is the goal this year. I think everybody wants to run fast, and with the way that this year has been going for the pro side, college side, and then even high school side, I think it'll be a fun year, and hopefully I can run a little faster.
Got to ask you this. I know in the state of Texas, they do not allow NIL deals. Does that pain you at all, seeing so many kids get NIL deals? You run 41, 46. You know there would be brands knocking at the door. What's your perspective on that?
It definitely does, but I mean, me and my dad actually, we talked about it yesterday. We were going up to Arkansas to watch my brother run, but we're like, hopefully, as long as I keep running fast and then go to college, that hopefully that will transfer over in a few years. But it's definitely kind of sucky to watch. Say all the other top athletes and say like one state over be able to get it, but we're not. But it's fine.
You mentioned this before we started recording. You got the Nike national meet next month. How do you shift your focus from literally being in a race where the American record is set to then, obviously, no disrespect to Nike, it's one of the best high school national meets, but definitely a different field and probably way different tactics and probably a different finishing time as well.
Well, I think in a way you kind of have to look at it the same, just going into the race and just try to run as fast as possible. And hopefully, I mean, everybody wants to win. I was, trying to win Millrose. That was see how fast I could run. But just going into that race, there's going to be some top guys in it from what I would assume, because there was last year. So just try to run as fast as possible, I would say.
What would you describe your style of racing as? You like front running, kicking? What's your preferred tactic?
Well, kicking has always been it's fun to me to be able to kind of sit in the back, but also I think you have to be able to do a little bit of everything, run from the front, run in the middle, run in the back. I think that makes a runner extremely dangerous if they can do all different types of racing.
What runners would you say you personally look up to these days if you follow the sport closely?
Some of the ones I look up to, I just did an interview with Josh Hoey. He's super awesome. So Josh, Brandon Miller, Josh Kerr, Cole Hawker, just all the big names in America, I would have to say.
Josh versus Jakob. You siding with Josh? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I got to go with Josh.
How closely of a fan are you of the sport of track and field? And if you weren't a runner, what would you be into?
I'm pretty close with track and field. I pay attention pretty close to social media whenever it comes to the running aspect side of whenever there's a big race. I normally don't watch them if it's like a diamond league just because they're always kind of hard to find. But I always hear about what they run. And then if I wasn't a runner, what would I do? Is that what you said?
Yeah. What sport?
Ooh. It'd have to be football, I'd say, just because that was one of my favorite sports that I would always do. But I don't know if I weigh enough for football right now.
Football, Texas football in high school is like the biggest thing in the world. What's
Yeah.
that been like growing up around?
It's football in Texas is probably the best sport you can watch, especially in that 6A classification where every game there's at least one guy that is going to go to a big school. So it's definitely cool to get to go to those games. The atmospheres are always great.
Obviously, you're running so fast so early, but you do have so much time left just within your high school career and then hopefully much beyond that horizon. Has it been hard to pace yourself in terms of training and even like mindset of like, I still got time, let's be patient with myself, time's on my side?
I don't think so. Me, my coaches, and my parents, they definitely have held me back just from, going all out right now and then maybe not running faster later or getting burned out. But they do a great job at that, not having the workouts go, doing too much on them. But they're a big reason why maybe I haven't overpushed some things. So I have to give all the credit to them.
What are you most excited about these days on the track?
Just running fast. I'm excited. After that Millrose race, I was talking with my coach. I was like, man, I just want to start racing again. But he's like, just got to take some time and just rest because my next meet is February 28th, which is where we're going after the 1K national record for high school, which is I think is 2:21 or 23. I always forget it, but that's the next race we have.
How excited are you for a little bit of an off distance like that?
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what I can do in I guess you could say a little bit longer distance, but you don't really run a 1K outdoors very often. So excited to see what I can do.
Oh, it's outdoors.
Yes, outdoors.
Okay. What's the field looking like? Is this going to be a solo attempt or pacers? What's the situation?
We got a lot of guys, Caden Leonard, Noah Stroman, a lot of local Texas guys. So everybody has like PRs like 152, 153. So it'll be a dogfight, that's for sure.
When you look toward the landscape of high school running in America right now, you ran 146 last week. We saw Owen Powell yesterday run 357 in the mile. What's your general take on just how crazy this spring could get with how fast kids are running, including yourself leading the way?
I'm excited for it. Excited for, I think high school has, especially, it's just grown a lot in this past year. So hopefully more faster races, and then just ready for it. That's really all I got to say.
You're an 800 guy, but you've also dabbled in the 200. You've dabbled in the mile as well. Let's take the distance before the 800 and after the 800. Would you prefer to race the 400 or the 1600?
If I didn't run the 8 or like first choice?
Yeah, first choice if it wasn't the 8. Or just this season. I'm sure you'll race both. Which are you looking forward to lowering your PR in?
Definitely the 400. I think if I can run a faster quarter, that will help with the 8 and maybe. Well, I mean, if you have a fast quarter, you can most likely, as long as the training's going right, you can run fast in the 8. So,
let me ask you this: questions off the top of my head. Noah Lyles, king. I don't like him. That's okay. But he still won the 100, so I'll give him his flowers. King of the 100. So you're a 400 guy in terms of like you're definitely sprint side. At what distance would Noah Lyles lose to you?
Oh, he'd beat me in a quarter. I'd give him that. I think it'd be around 600 to 800 is where I'd start getting 600. I think would be close because he'd beat me. I think he runs he split like a 46 before. I think
something like that.
Like indoor somewhere.
He's not even touching you in an 800 though. Get out of here. He's not running.
I'll get him in the 8. I think it's around 600 or 5 to 600 is where it'd be a really good race.
Okay, place bets, everyone. Let's make this happen. No allows if you're listening. You don't want the smoke. Let's see what else. In terms of like you thinking about college and like, does this race at all change your? And I know you're young and you pace yourself, so you probably haven't even thought of this. But at what point, at what time would you have to run for you to consider going professional? I mean, 146 is creeping down there in elite territory.
I'm not 100% sure on what time it would be. I personally, I'd kind of like to go to college for at least 2 years or at least a year just to, I think college, get a good education and then also being able to hang out with a group of guys. I know you don't get that as much in the pro side where some guys are training by themselves all the time, which in a way can be negative in my opinion, being by yourself the whole time instead of having a group of people that are all they're striving for the same thing you are.
What advice would you give to a listener who watched that race, looks up to you, wants to get better this year? What advice would you give to them on how to get better and how to make this 2025 season for track the best season yet?
I think you just well, two things, just trying to stay consistent. A lot of people will say have a really great week and then I don't need to do it this week or I'll wait maybe a week or two, but just staying consistent with it is I think one of the biggest things that was, in my opinion, a big reason why I've been able to run as fast as I have is not taking many days off. Well, having rest days, but the days that I do train, making sure they're good days as long as I can, and then just having fun with it. I think is one of the biggest things. I've said that a lot. Just being able to, after a good workout, look at it and just see how much you've grown from, say, maybe even just a week ago or a year ago.
Cooper, appreciate the conversation, man. Let's see, one final fun question off the top of my head. Let's see. What is one thing you're looking forward to off the track in the coming months? Nothing to do with running. What's one thing you're looking forward to?
Off the track. Oh, that's a good one. I think maybe getting out of school for summer this year would have to be. I'm about ready for it. So, we got I think 3 months left, 3.5 months left of school. So just getting ready for summer.
Was that nice last year when you were done with school and then like all the fun national meets happened and you probably didn't have school before practice and you could just focus on running?
Most definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Cooper, thank you so much for the conversation, hopping on here. I really appreciate it. Always love hearing the behind the scenes of your crazy performances and mindset. And yeah, it's been so fun to follow along and keep crushing it, man. Keep that mindset. Keep being patient with yourself and so excited to see all the things you accomplish because 146, man, I feel washed. I'm glad I'm not in high school. So keep crushing it, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.